President Muhammadu Buhari felicitates with Christians as Christian faithful marks the 2020 Easter in Loki. Borno State Governor holds strategic meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari over prevailing security challenges. Plus, OPEC and non-OPEC extraordinary members agree on 10 million barrels per day quote for May and June. Good afternoon and welcome to the news at 1 on NTA News 24. I am Abdul Malik Adio. Still, thanks for joining us on the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has felicitated with Christians as Christian faithful mark 2020 Easter. In a message to Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins Christian compatriots to rekindle their faith in Christ, who overcome persecution, suffering, and displayed endurance, steadfastness, and above all, piety. The President, in his message, and I quote, says, "I rejoice with our Christian brothers and sisters, as well as all Nigerians on the occasion of the celebration of this year's Easter. This year's commemoration of Easter comes amid the grip with which COVID-19 has held the entire world." End of quote. President urged Nigerians to imbibe and live the value of humility, discipline, perseverance, sacrifice, and obedience which Jesus Christ demonstrated during his stay on earth. He remarked that there is no better opportunity than now for all Christians, in particular Nigerians in general, to remain faithful and hopeful that with intensive prayers backed by personal and collective responsibility, the nation shall pull through this most difficult time. Today is day 11 of the lockdown enforcement by federal government, and it coincides with the Good Friday, which Christian faithful around the world celebrate the death of Jesus Christ. How are churches in the Federal Capital Territory observing it? Let's join Oyemi Ajayi for details.
All right, thank you very much, studio. Yeah, the Good Friday commemorates the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his death on Calvary. It also coincides with the Jewish observance of the Passover. It brings to reflection the life and death of Jesus Christ, as well as the cost Christ paid on the cross of Calvary. We are here at the Catholic Archdiocese, that is the Church of Assumption in Asokoro, Abuja. Normally, this church is always filled to the brim in observance of this day. But as you can see, there are no cars, no one here, and the reason is not far-fetched, the observance of the sit-at-home order. I have with me Reverend Father Christopher Nubia to give us more insight about what Good Friday is all about.
Why are we talking about today as Good Friday? It is good because Christ wholeheartedly died for the sake of all of us. He took our sins away and he said, "It is finished." He didn't say, "I am finished," but he said, "It is finished." It means that salvation has come to its accomplishment. Because we have the stages of divine revelation. The first revelation started with the creation of Adam and Eve and ended with the fall of the people of Israel, talking about the flood when God destroyed the world. After the destruction of the world, then we have the second part of the God's revelation. That is beginning with our father in faith, Abraham, time to the time of the prophets. Then the prophet talked about the Messiah who will come. Eventually, the Messiah came. And that Messiah is what we celebrate today.
Yeah, here we are at the First Baptist Church, Garki, Abuja, and the view is also the same, where there are no congregants around to commemorate the day in the church, but definitely at their respective homes. Here with me is the pastor of the church, that's Reverend Dr. Israel Akonji. This day, normally, there's meant to be the church is meant to be filled to the brim, but as it is, there is none here. How is the church commemorating the day?
What we're just able to do is to keep praying with one another. We use our telephones to send messages around, text messages, and then during services like this, I alone am streamed by a cameraman, just one man, and from there we go to the Facebook and go to the YouTube and try to share the message of the occasion with people in their various homes.
What's your message in times like this? What do you have for Nigeria?
What my message is for Nigeria is that help from above is nearby. We are in a situation where we cannot do much for ourselves except to stay at home, be washing our hands, be keeping social distance, and obeying what the government says. That's not too much we can do. There are people that are outside risking their lives. The people of the media, the security people, the medical people, doctors and other people, military and paramilitary, they are all outside. A lot of essential works are going on, because if they don't go on, we cannot even be inside. We cannot stay inside. Imagine people working with electricity and all this. If they don't go to do their jobs, then the homes we are staying in will drive us out. We will not be able to stay in. So all I'm saying is that at this time, we should continue to pray and trust God that help is coming. My message to Nigerians is that help is nearby. Help is nearby. Help is on the way. And soon and very soon, all of us will celebrate our togetherness again.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time. And like the Reverend Father has said, two things. One, it is finished. Then the other one, help is nearby. Coronavirus is finished, like what he has said, and the anticipation and hope for the manifestation is what many are actually looking at. And that's it from here for now. I am Oyeyemi Ajayi. Bye for now.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, has directed the Commissioner of Police in state where the social restriction order has been in place to continue with the due enforcement of the order, while felicitating with the Nigerian Christian community as Christendom commemorates the crucifixion, death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The IGP calls on religious leaders in Lagos, Ogun and the Federal Capital Territory, as well as other states affected by the restriction order, to continue to cooperate with relevant government agencies and use their leadership position to encourage worshippers to observe prayers and worship prayers and programs in the confines of their homes. The IGP expressed deep concern that for the first time in the annals of history, circumstances call for restriction on social gatherings, which inevitably is also affecting religious programs of all faiths. He therefore enjoins Nigerians to see the restriction in light of symbolism of Easter, which connotes sacrifice, tolerance, perseverance, love, and ultimate triumph. Now, as motorists across the country gear up towards a hitch-free year 2020 Easter celebration, the Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Buboyi Oyemi, felicitate with the Christian faithfuls and has called on all motorists to sustain adherence to the respective lockdown order and adhere to the maximum safety and health standard in vehicles amidst the rising cases of coronavirus in Nigeria. In the country, a statement by the Corps Public Education Officer, BC Kazim, indicates that all personnel have been adequately briefed on the imperatives of sustaining the tempo on the ongoing enforcement on overloading of vehicles and mandatory adherence to the social distance directive by all passengers on board, especially as the country continues to battle the deadly virus. He, however, states that emphasis will be high on Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory, which have the highest number of victims. The Court Martial, while felicitating with Christian faithful ahead of this year's celebration of the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, beckoned on them to manifest love, care, and obedience to establish laws so as to portray the lessons of the Holy Week in positive light. The OPEC and non-OPEC ministerial meeting has agreed on 10 million barrels per day quote for May and June for the OPEC members, while other producers outside the OPEC will contribute about 5 million barrels per day in May and June. This is the outcome of the meeting, which took place via a web-based seminar because of the COVID-19 pandemic and restriction of movement globally. In all members agreed to the court except Mexico. Now, the federal government has promised to take more decisive and proactive measures towards ensuring that Boko Haram menace in part of the country is totally eliminated for sustainable peace and development. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance during the strategic engagement with the governor of Borno State on the prevailing security situation following Chadian military operations on the fringes of Lake Chad. Sera's correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Governor Babagana Umara Zulum was in the State House to brief the president on the recent military action against Boko Haram by Chad Republic on the shores of Lake Chad and its implications on Nigeria's national security. Chad was responding to the killing of nearly 100 of its soldiers by the insurgents. President Muhammadu Buhari and Governor Zulum, after critically analyzing the situation, expressed the belief that time has come to once and for all put to an end the senseless acts of terror by Boko Haram and other criminal elements operating in the region.
Honestly speaking, we are apprehensive because of the ongoing operations by the Chadians. Right now, most of the Boko Haram are fleeing the shores of the Lake Chad, the areas of the Chad Republic, and they are now coming to the northern Borno State and then to southern Borno State. And there's need for us to now provide some counter-insurgency attacks.
So what did the president tell you?
This is the right time that the government of Nigeria, under his leadership, will do everything possible to support the MNJTF and others to be proactive enough to contain the situation, to deal with them decisively with a view to ending the crisis, so that they shouldn't occupy some other areas in the northern states as well as in the Sambisa Reserve.
From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And the Embassy of the Republic of Chad has condemned and denounced a dubious video images wrongly attributed to President Idris Deby in a video circulating on social media. The report.
The Embassy of the Republic of Chad has brought to the knowledge of Nigeria of a misleading video and images circulating on the web and in some online platforms, including print media. The Chad Embassy noted that these dubious videos and images attributed to the President of the Republic of Chad, Idris Deby Itno, is dated back to 2015 with completely distorted remarks taken out of context and alleging inaction or non-participation of the Nigerian army in the fight against Boko Haram. The embassy hereby disassociates from such, rejects it, and also condemns it in strong terms, regretting the misinformation which it says only aims at deteriorating the cordial relationship between the two countries, as well as the cooperation established between defense and security forces of both sister and neighboring countries bound by history, geography, culture, and blood. The embassy commends the mutual understanding, regular consultations, and active solidarity that exists between the sister countries and the two leaders. The embassy also pointed out the qualitative development that has occurred in all areas of bilateral cooperation between the two countries, with Nigeria as #1 economic partner, and both nations require further rapprochement to solve security challenges to achieve sustainable development. To this end, therefore, the Chad Embassy is counting on the media organizations to consolidate common interests of both countries towards sub-regional and continental integration, pointing to the cooperation established in the framework of the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the common fight carried out together within the multinational Joint Task Force as perfect illustrations. It further stated that both countries cannot be distracted from their common goal of restoring peace, security and stability in the whole sub-region for a sustainable development mutually profitable to both countries.
Now, faced with environmental degradation on one hand and insurgency on the other, the Lake Chad region is a shadow of itself, of its former glory, leading Nigeria and Chad to re-strategize on fighting insurgency in the region. Correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
Understanding that these challenges are the root cause of the cycle of violence and insecurity in the region, this meeting between Ministers of Defense and Chiefs of Defense Staff of both nations is a critical step in resolving the crisis.
I must also add that the meeting holding at this auspicious trying moment of universal lockdown underscores the premium our government places on security of our nation.
Ça, je profite de l'occasion pour remercier le président nigérian et le gouvernement pour l'appui qui ne cesse de donner à notre force commune qui est le CBLT, notre structure, et à tous les pays dans cette lutte contre le Boko Haram.
Recent achievements made by the multinational Joint Task Force, comprising Nigeria, Niger and Chad, in fighting insecurity warranted an evolution in war tactics against the insurgents to attain the common goal of ridding the region of insurgency. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 1 on NTA, and a break beckons. When we come back, there'll be more news. Do stay tuned.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says as at 9:30 p.m., 9th April 2020, 14 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 288. Of the 14 new cases, 13 are in Lagos and 1 in Delta State. 51 patients have been so far discharged and 7 deaths recorded. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, yesterday apologized for erroneously reporting 2 new cases in Bauchi State. The NCDC states that following further review, it was confirmed that there were repeat tests for the previously confirmed cases. They assured Nigerians that they remain committed to ensuring transparent and accurate reporting of test results. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the federal government is increasing measures in curbing the spread on COVID-19 in the country and wants the government and state, especially those share borders with neighboring countries, to be proactive in tracing cases. The minister disclosed this while appearing on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria, explaining that effort on containment and mitigation by the federal government remains on course. Lai Mohammed also stressed that every stakeholder must play his part in the fight at ending the pandemic in Nigeria.
For prevention, you need the cooperation of the populace. They need to listen to what the government is saying, especially through their various agencies like the Port Health, the Center for Disease Control, the Ministry of Health. And here is where we need especially the support of the state governors. They need to be proactive. They don't need to wait for the surge to come. They must prepare and work with the various health authorities, especially the Port Health, immigrations, and others at our land borders.
The Minister of Information, who also cleared the ground on the Chinese assistance to Nigeria in the fight against COVID-19, said there are measures to increase the number of bed spaces for isolation of suspect in addition to existing facilities, with Lagos State already in the forefront.
Those equipments are not available. South Korea has banned the exportation of anything that has to do with containment of COVID-19. There's a proverb that says that when somebody offers you a medicine as a cure for the ailment, you ask him 3 questions. Have you ever suffered that ailment before? When you did you use this drug? When you did it work? And this is exactly what we see in the case of the Chinese. But they are not coming to treat Nigerian patients. They are coming to help us even build our own capacity.
Lai Mohammed added that Nigeria now have fewer cases of COVID-19 from returning travelers and wants citizens to take the social distance practice and self-isolation more seriously to curb community transmission of the disease in the country. Now, the National Assembly engagement with critical government organizations on the containment of COVID-19 this week rounded off with Presidential Task Force on Control of Virus at the meeting. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, stressed the need for a single centralized account for all COVID-19 funds to be managed by a separate body. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Oko report.
It's been a 3-day painstaking engagement between the two arms of government against the scourge of COVID-19. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, stressed accountability and transparency in the management of all COVID-19 funds. His fear was allayed by the chairman of the Presidential Committee, Boss Mustafa.
Under a certain platform, one platform, not every organization is running its own show. There could be duplication, working at cross purposes. At the end of the day, there will certainly not be efficiency.
We run a constitutional democracy that provides an essential ingredient called checks and balances.
The PTF would not be directly involved in the collection and disbursement of cash donations for COVID-19. The Accountant General of the Federation has already published the account details for collection.
The task force demanded some legislations to contain the virus and put in place preventive measures in the future.
In that some who are positive disappeared from view, and we are not sure how we are going to be able to actually account for the transmission that goes on.
The legislators observed the need for hazard allowance for frontline health workers and for publication of names, bank verification numbers, and pictures of vulnerable Nigerians who benefited from the palliatives. The Presidential Task Force explained that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is addressing the plight of Nigerians in China as moves to bring back Nigerians who wish to return from other countries is ongoing. The arrival of the Chinese medical personnel into Nigeria and need to monitor their 14 days quarantine period also came to the fore. Minister of Information and Culture Alhaji Lai Mohammed advised Nigerians to guard against fake news on COVID-19, describing the story of alleged spending of 1 billion naira on SMS by NCDC as one of such unrealistic stories.
We are taking adequate measures, but I want to see the opportunity to thank Facebook because the agreement between us and Facebook is that once we flag that kind of story, Facebook removes it or we stamp it fake news. It's not that the civil senator just showed me now that particular thing has been stamped fake news.
This is the 5th meeting involving the leadership of the National Assembly and government organizations on the measures to contain the virus. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Now, after another fresh attack on Mbrazogo village in Basa local government area of Plateau State, which led to the killing of 4 people, including a pastor, and destruction of properties, Governor Simon Lalong has ordered security agencies to go after the killers and fish out to face justice. A statement by the Director of Press Public Affairs to the Governor of Plateau State, Makut Simon Macham, indicates that Governor Simon Lalong expressed disgust over the barbaric action of the criminals who do not only have respect for the sanctity of human lives. The governor laments that it's unfortunate that they choose this period when the state is working hard to confront the coronavirus pandemic to perpetrate their murderous act. The governor, who sympathized with the victims of the killings, said government will not tolerate this senseless act of murder unleashed on innocent citizens. He has directed traditional and community leaders to cooperate with security agencies in identifying the attackers, who he maintains cannot be shielded as these attacks have persisted in recent weeks, a situation that is highly unacceptable by his administration. And that concludes the news at 1 on NTA News 24. Many thanks for watching.